There is one number that determines whether a turntable is playing your records or slowly grinding them into dust. And almost nobody selling turntables at a mall kiosk or a big box store is going to tell you what it is. It's called tracking force. It's measured in grams. A properly set up turntable rests its stylus on the groove with somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 grams of downward pressure, roughly the weight of a couple of paper clips. That's genuinely all it takes to trace the groove accurately. A huge number of the turntables sold to first-time buyers every year run at 5 to 7 grams, more than double what's needed. Every play isn't just listening to the record. It's wearing a little more of the groove away, permanently, in a way no amount of cleaning ever reverses. Today we're going through the turntable brands that build their entire business model around buyers never learning that number, and 3 brands that build their entire business model around making sure you don't have to worry about it in the first place. Let's start with the one you've probably already got sitting in a closet somewhere. Segment 1, the Suitcase category, Crosley, Victrola, and Ion Audio. Crosley, Victrola, and Ion Audio occupy the exact same shelf space in almost every big box store in the country, and they share the exact same core design failure. No adjustable counterweight, no anti-skate mechanism, a tone arm that's essentially a fixed weight resting on the record rather than a precision instrument balanced against it. The result, consistently, is stylus pressure sitting well above 5 grams, sometimes closer to 7. None of these companies are hiding this by accident. They know exactly where their turntables get sold, next to candles, next to throw blankets, next to gift sets. They know the overwhelming majority of buyers are shopping on nostalgia and aesthetics, not spec sheets, and that almost nobody standing in that aisle is going to pull out a stylus force gauge before checkout. Here's the part that makes it worse instead of better over time. All 3 of these brands have used the goodwill built by decades of sales to move up market. Victrola now sells a wireless flagship turntable north of $600, and their top-tier model has launched north of $1,400. Crosley's higher-end belt drive model, sold under the same name that built its reputation on Suitcase players, runs around $400 and is, by most measured accounts, a genuinely competent turntable. That's the uncomfortable twist. The premium models aren't necessarily bad instruments on their own merits. What's uncomfortable is that they're selling on brand recognition earned by decades of the exact opposite kind of product. The ones quietly wearing down the very record collections these companies now claim to respect at a higher price point. Segment 2, Audio-Technica AT-LP120XUSB, Borrowed Credibility. This next one is more interesting because the brand itself isn't the problem. Audio-Technica's cartridge division is genuinely respected. Their VM series cartridges show up in project studios and on turntables used by mastering engineers. That reputation is earned, not manufactured. The AT-LP120X, their roughly $150 fully automatic beginner turntable, leans on that exact reputation. And here's what it actually delivers underneath the familiar logo: a tone arm that can't be upgraded, a cartridge that's fixed in place rather than swappable, and a built-in preamp coloring the sound before it ever reaches your speakers. You're not being sold a bad product exactly. You're being sold the emotional weight of a name earned in one part of the catalog, attached to a product built to a completely different standard in another part of it. It's a more subtle version of the same trick, not damaging your records outright, but letting reputation do work the actual engineering underneath the price point hasn't earned yet. Segment 3, Rega and Technics, Paying for the Silhouette. Some brands don't need to hide anything. They just quietly let their name do more of the pricing work every year. Rega has built real, respected engineering over decades. Their entry-level planar 1 uses a genuinely precise, in-house machine tone arm that outperforms anything at its price from the big box names. But Rega's flagship mid-range model has climbed sharply in price over a single pricing cycle, enough that one of the most historically loyal audio publications in the UK directly compared it against a similarly priced rival, and for the first time in that model's multi-decade run, called the other turntable the better value. Technics tells a similar story from a completely different angle. The original SL-1200 didn't just play records, it built modern DJ culture full stop. When Technics revived the line as a home-listening audiophile turntable, they kept the exact same 50-year-old silhouette, not because it was the optimal shape for a living room shelf, but because that shape is worth more in instant recognition than almost any marketing campaign they could design from scratch. Turntables at a fraction of the price, from smaller companies, match or beat its real-world sonic performance in a home listening context. In both cases, the engineering underneath is genuinely good. That's what makes this one worth paying attention to. You're not being sold a lie. You're being sold a name that's earned the right to charge more for the same underlying performance, and the gap between what you're paying for the badge versus what you're paying for the sound keeps quietly widening. Segment 4. The boutique market above $3,000. This last one is the biggest, and it's the one almost nobody in this hobby wants to say out loud. There are now hundreds of turntables on the market marketed as high-end, most of them priced well above $3,000, some considerably higher. The marketing language around them is consistent: hand-matched components, isolated plinths, custom machined tone arms. Those details are usually real. Nobody's lying about the parts list. Here's the part the marketing leaves out: controlled listening comparisons, the kind done blind, with volume carefully matched so loudness can't fool the ear. Repeatedly find that once a turntable is well built and properly set up somewhere north of about $1,500, the audible differences beyond that point shrink to something most listeners, even experienced ones, genuinely can't reliably distinguish. That doesn't make a $5,000 turntable fake, and it doesn't make owning one foolish. Plenty of people are paying for craftsmanship, materials, and the experience of owning something beautifully made, and that's a legitimate reason to buy almost anything. The problem is only when that price gets marketed as sonic superiority rather than what it actually is, which is closer to owning a beautifully finished watch that keeps the same time as one that costs a tenth as much. So that's where the number gets hidden, borrowed, or quietly buried under the badge. Now here's where it doesn't: three turntables where the spec sheet and the actual grams landing on your record agree with each other. Honor Roll 3, U-Turn Audio Orbit Plus. U-Turn Audio is a small company out of Massachusetts, and every Orbit turntable is assembled by hand in the US. The Orbit Plus runs around $330 and comes with a properly matched cartridge already installed, an acrylic platter to reduce resonance, and the detail that actually matters most given everything we just covered: a fully adjustable tone arm with a real, functional counterweight. What's just as telling is what U-Turn leaves out on purpose: no Bluetooth, no built-in speaker, no nostalgia packaging, just a turntable built to do one job correctly. Reviewers who have placed it directly against turntables costing considerably more have consistently described the gap in sound quality as small enough not to matter for most listeners. You're getting genuinely serious engineering at a price built around doing the job right rather than doing the marketing right. Honor Roll 2, Audio-Technica AT-LP120XUSB. This one's worth sitting with for a second, because it's the same brand name from Segment 2, just a completely different team living up to it. Where the LP60X borrows Audio-Technica's cartridge reputation without the engineering to back it up, the LP120XUSB actually earns it. It's manual rather than automatic, which matters more than it sounds like it should, because a manual tone arm mechanism is simpler and more precise than an automatic return mechanism trying to do that job for you. The tracking force and anti-skate are both genuinely adjustable, The cartridge is a real swappable standard mount, and the direct drive motor gives it the torque and speed stability that DJs and serious home listeners actually rely on. At right around $300, this is Audio-Technica choosing to let the reputation from their cartridge division actually reach all the way down into the hardware, instead of stopping at the logo. Same company, same name on the box as Segment 2, completely different relationship between what's promised and what's delivered. Honor Roll 1, Pro-Ject Debut Carbon Evo. Pro-Ject is an Austrian company that has spent 3 decades building the case that serious turntable engineering doesn't require a 3-figure brand premium sitting on top of it. The Debut Carbon Evo runs around $600 and uses a carbon fiber tone arm, the same material used in tone arms on turntables costing several times as much, chosen because it's simultaneously rigid and light, which means it tracks the groove accurately without adding the kind of extra mass that creates resonance. It ships with a genuinely well-regarded cartridge already installed, height-adjustable damped feet, and an electronic speed switch that lets you move between speeds without lifting the platter by hand. When a major UK audio publication put this platform directly up against Rega's flagship mid-range model, the same one we talked about earlier climbing in price on reputation, the Pro-Ject came out ahead. Not on nostalgia, not on brand history, on the actual sound reaching the speakers. At its price, there's genuinely no reason to look past it if what you actually want is the instrument rather than the icon. So here's the only checklist this video actually needs, built entirely out of what you just watched. Before you buy any turntable, Suitcase style, brand name, boutique, doesn't matter, look up 2 words in the spec sheet, tracking force. If the listing doesn't mention it at all, that's not a neutral omission. Every turntable in the honor roll proudly states its tracking force range because it's something they're proud of, not something they're hoping you skip past. Every turntable in the offender list either buries it or doesn't mention it, because the actual number would talk buyers out of the purchase. That's it. That's the whole test. Not the brand name, not the price, not whether it looks good on a shelf next to your record collection, just whether the company selling it to you is comfortable telling you the one number that decides whether it's playing your records or slowly erasing them. This does not mean every well-known brand is out to get you, and it doesn't mean the 3 names on the honor roll are the only good options out there. It means the difference between a turntable that respects your record collection and one that's slowly grinding through it usually comes down to a number smaller than the weight of a couple of coins, and almost nobody puts it front and center on the box. So tell me what's spinning your records right now, and have you actually checked the tracking force on it? Drop it in the comments.